Welcome back, and joining me for a closer look at what's played out on the market scene today is Viv Govendor from Randsus. Thank you so much for your time, Viv. I actually want to start off with the Rand, because earlier on it was above 18 Rand, sitting comfortably at 18 Rand 14, but now it is back below 18 Rand against the greenback. And I'm wondering if this speaks to maybe less negative sentiment in the market when it comes to risk?
Look, I think what's happening is that, with what's happening with Iran, even though the US causes some of these problems, I mean, I remember in 9/11 when we saw, for instance, markets, kind of rewarding the dollar. When things are getting a bit crazy, things are getting a bit more, uncertain in the world, people do tend to go towards the US dollar to a certain extent. I think that was what explained that initial kind of weakening in the rand. The kind of return to where we were, on Friday, this indicates, I think, that people are expecting, not too much to happen from the Iranian side. That's why it seemed that the Iranians have, not responded to any of the attacks, either this time around or the previous attacks from Israel, with much more escalation. They'll respond in some token manner, but not really do anything that's going to cause things to spiral out of control.
Does that mean then things look, I guess, more muted on the oil market? It's quite interesting because earlier on I had seen Sasol up almost 5%, but seeming that those gains on the oil price aren't elevating to $80 and above.
Yeah, look, I mean, the oil price is about $76 a barrel. That's probably maybe $10 around about there, above where the market would probably clear without the Iranian news. That being said, if the Iranians were under attack and decided to close what's called the Straits of Hormuz, it's this piece of ocean just south of them, and it's only about 20-30 kilometers across, basically. And it's quite possible for them to maybe mine it or attack it with even small drones or whatnot, and stop the flow of oil tankers through that region. And if you look at the amount of the world's oil that flows from the Middle East to places like India and China, etc., through that region, it's quite insane just how much of it goes through that region. And so if that was to occur, we would see oil prices significantly higher. So the fact that we are seeing it $10 higher at the moment from what it already would be just shows that there's some indication of fear around that, that piece of water. But if it does go further than that, I mean, we do actually see real action by the Iranians. It could easily go well above $100 a barrel based just on them closing down that piece of water.
All right. Well, Viv, let's drill into some of the company news that we got on the JSE today. Not a lot, but a big one. Naspers and Prosus releasing their annual results. The company swinging, the companies / company, swinging from an operating loss to an operating profit. Headline earnings per share almost doubling. We did see the share price climbing over 3% at some point, not exactly sure where it ended on the day. But is this an illustration of active asset management and execution?
Look, I think certainly. I mean, they are still losing money in things like Tencent, Takealot, etc.
Yes.
It still remains like a Tencent, holding. Look, they are moving into places like India for, possibly, trying to find the next, 10-cent kind of opportunity there. I do think that if you had to look at a lot of what's been happening with that company in the last little while, yes, we have seen some improvement in share prices and so recently, but it's more to do, I think, with what Tencent's been able to, achieve in the last, just a little while. I mean, in the last year or so, Tencent is up about 30-something%. After we are seeing a bit of a cooling down in terms of tensions between them and the government, between all the tech companies in China and the government. And I think that's more important to, Naspers price than what Takealot's, revenue is, even though, it's grown, but like I said, it's in the red at the moment in terms of profitability.
Yeah, all right. Well, let's go into the gold sector. Harmony Gold coming out with an annual production update. I mean, talk about operational excellence. The company reminded us that they've met or beat all guidance metrics for the 10th consecutive year. And of course, this also as they saw a record share price in April. Is it all glitter for Harmony?
Yeah, look, I mean, I just like to point out they may have had, multiple years of positive, achievements in terms of production and so on, but the share price hasn't been as positive over that period, as you would think based on their productivity.
Yeah.
With all of these companies, basically, it's all about the ability of the company to not the ability, but the fact that the company is dependent on the price of the commodity. Gold prices, as we know, have gone ballistic over the last little while, and that's why we are seeing, for instance, a huge improvement in the price of things like Harmony, Goldfields, etc. It's because of the fact that the gold price has gone up. It's good to have good productivity, but you're more or less always playing the gold price when it comes to these miners.
That is so interesting, Viv, that you talk about the fact that the share price really only got propped up this year, but over the years, it hasn't really moved in tandem with the production. And it's quite funny because usually when you see a gold miner talking about operational challenges, then the markets actually respond and they actually punish the shares. So it's quite interesting that with Harmony Gold, they haven't really rewarded the company based on production, that it is all about the gold price. Just another thing before we get to your stock pick for today. I did see that Rainet rocketed over 10% at some point today. Is there a specific reason for that buoyancy?
I looked at it. I couldn't see anything at the moment. Yeah, just I didn't find any story that followed that. Yes, it is correct, and it's allowed maybe to see whether or not there was something happening, before that could explain, the movement. Yes, that had a small dip recently, but this is the highest it's been in over a year. So there is something actually happening there that I didn't see the reason to be added at the moment.
Okay, very, very interesting, and we will be keeping a close eye on that. Well, Viv, what are you looking at today? Your stock pick?
It's Alphabet, the company that basically owns Google. And even though Google is like more than half the revenue of the company, there's so many things in that company that could be $1 trillion companies they own. There's Waymo, this self-driving taxi company that basically has done over 10 million rides, which was just recently. There's YouTube, which is a company that has more views or more viewing hours than Netflix does. There is Isomorphic Labs, which has partnerships with like Eli Lilly and a bunch of other pharmaceutical companies that are doing incredible things with regards to AI. And then there's also the AI tools company, it's called DeepMind, which is at least probably as valuable as something like OpenAI, which is valued at $700 billion at the moment. So this company, the market has punished it recently because there's fears about what's happening with the search business, which, like I say, is more than half of its revenue at the moment. But there's just so many other parts of this business that even if search did fall apart, and we did see, for instance, the things like AI helping Waymo or helping Isomorphic Labs, etc. There's so much opportunity in this company, even without the search division, for growth. That I think that it's probably a great opportunity to play this AI boom via a single company. You could look at Google / Alphabet, and it's not going to be a bad bet for that.
All right. Well, thank you so much for your time and for your insights on what has moved investors' money today, Viv. Much appreciated. That was Viv Govendor from Rand Swiss.